Hello, and welcome to my StoryTime channel. In today's video, I will break down the plot of Gods of Egypt. Please subscribe to my channel and give this video a like before I start the main video. Gods lived among mortals and ruled the land in ancient Egypt. They are easily identified because they are much taller than the average person, have gold blood, and can transform into a variety of terrifying beasts. Osiris rules over all the land made fertile by the Nile, while his brother Set rules over the barren desert, and his isolation has made him bitter. Osiris eventually decides to hand over the throne to his son Horus, who is in a relationship with the goddess Hathor. He loves Hathor so much that he's given her one of Egypt's most valuable treasures, the bracelet of 42 stars, which can keep demons at bay. On the day of the coronation, everyone in the city, both gods and mortals, attends the celebration. This includes Zaya and her boyfriend Bek, a thief who will steal expensive items to make his girlfriend happy and possibly run away together. Someday, after all the gods have paid their respects and mortals have left their offerings, Osiris delivers a speech and prepares to crown Horus. They are interrupted, however, by the arrival of Set, who pretends to be here with a gift but quickly fills the space with his own army. Then he hands Osiris the staff their father had given him, challenging him to a fight because he believes it is his turn to rule. When Osiris refuses to fight his own brother, Set kills him and proclaims himself the new king of Egypt. His first new rule is that not everyone will be able to easily enter the afterlife. Mankind will now have to pay in riches. Horus will not accept this and immediately begins fighting Set in order to exact revenge on his father. They're both extremely skilled warriors, so they end up transforming into their metal beast forms to continue the fight in the sky. Set's tropes appear and reflect the sun on their shields to blind Horus, giving Set the opportunity to claim victory and take Horus' eyes. Set is about to kill Horus as well, but Hathor intervenes and offers herself in exchange for Horus' life, so Horus is exiled instead. 1 year later, most of Egypt has been enslaved by Set, and they now lack the funds to enter the afterlife. Some gods attempted to defeat him in order to save the kingdom, but they all died, while Hathor continues to play the role of caring lover in order to survive. Zaya is a slave to Set's chief architect Urshu, who is currently constructing Egypt's tallest obelisk. Bek has been assigned to manual labor, but whenever he can, he sneaks into Urshu's office to see Zaya. One afternoon, Zaya informs Bek that Set's army is returning with spoils of war, implying that his vault will be unlocked in the evening, providing an ideal opportunity for Bek to sneak in and retrieve Horus' eyes. To assist him, Zaya steals Urshu's pyramid plans and replaces them with blank parchments. When it gets dark, Bek leaps from a roof into the carriage carrying the gold, which is quickly thrown into the vault. Bek uses the plans to avoid most traps, but he still accidentally activates one, and there's a third bridge that isn't on the plans at all. Bek, fortunately, is quick and agile, so he avoids every attack and makes it to the statue guarding one of Horus' eyes. He falls into a pit full of scorpions when he grabs the eye, but the light of the eye keeps them at bay. Bek returns to see Zaya in the morning, but Urshu has discovered the ruse and is waiting for him with a swarm of guards. Bek blinds them all and flees with his girlfriend, but as they flee in a carriage, Urshu shoots his bow from the balcony and kills Zaya. They arrive at the temple where Horus is hiding, and Bek is attacked with the staff by Horus when he does not immediately return the eye. Bek promises to do it if Horus can bring Zaya back to life, and Horus agrees to try, but his efforts are futile. She's not injured, she's already dead, and he can't cure mortality. Horus summons Anubis, the god of death, who transports Zaya's soul to the underworld for judgment. Bek is concerned that she will be unable to pay the afterlife fee, so after Horus returns his eye, Bek offers a deal. If Horus can find a way to save Zaya, Bek will show him the way into the pyramid to obtain the other eye. Horus agrees after explaining that if he becomes king again, he may receive additional benefits, and they flee after hiding Zaya in the temple. When Set learns about the missing eye, he sends his army to attack another goddess stronghold. Set arrives at Horus' temple after his nephew has already left, but he finds Zaya's body and takes her necklace after sending his men to find Horus. Returning to Horus and Bek, they are currently climbing a mountain because Horus cannot transform without both eyes and requires assistance to defeat Set. When they reach the summit, Horus prays to his grandfather, the god of the sun, for a blessing that allows him to temporarily transform and fly with Beck towards Ra's solar divine vessel. Ra's job here is to fight the shadow beast Apophis every day and keep it out of Egypt. Ra refuses to become involved in Set's conflict because he believes in remaining neutral when it comes to his sons and is unwilling to play favorites. He does, however, allow Horus to fill a flask with the waters surrounding the vessel. Back in Egypt, the last rebel gods have retreated behind their walls, so Set takes advantage of the opportunity to visit his ex-wife Nephthys and steal her wings. Ra temporarily grants Horus some power at the solar vessel so he can fly back with Beck, but he loses it as they get closer to the ground and have a rather inelegant landing. They must then use the flask of water to kill the desert, which will greatly weaken Set, but first Horus sends Beck to gather some regular water to drink. Beck is ambushed near the waterfall by Set's Minotaur army, led by Nevis. Fortunately, Horus arrives quickly and easily defeats them all, but Nevis is only pretending to be dead. He waits for the right moment to push Horus and Beck off the waterfall before fleeing, and the pair is only alive because of Horus' staff. Nevis reports back to Set, who kills him for failing and dispatches his mighty hunters to hunt down Horus. Set then requests that Hathor transport him to the underworld, as she has access there as a former counselor to the dead. Hathor pretends to think about it, and when she has time, she uses her powers on the sand to make it show her how Horus is doing. When Set discovers her, he realizes Hathor still loves Horus and that she has been lying all along, so he attempts to kill her, but Hathor escapes by opening a portal with her bracelet. Beck and Horus stop at Osiris' tomb to rest on their way back to the city. Set's hunters appear on giant snakes, and fighting them is dangerous because Horus can't stand their venom in his current state. Beck quickly devises a plan. He'll flee to serve as bait while Horus hides among the walls, allowing him to sneak attack when the serpent approaches. Horus' plan works, and he stabs the snake, but it doesn't hit its weak spot, and the staff is now stuck in the beast's mouth. On their second attempt, Beck runs for a longer distance and Horus jumps on top of the snake to kill the rider, causing the snake to continue going in circles and fall off a cliff. There is still the other snake to deal with, but Hathor appears and uses her commanding powers to retrieve the staff and set the snake on fire. The trio escapes safely, but Horus is not pleased to see Hathor because he believes she is nothing more than a traitor, not realizing she had to act in order to avoid being killed. Beck explains that they intend to obtain the other eye because he has seen the pyramid plans, but Hathor informs them that there is something they are unaware of. A sphinx guards the pyramid and will kill anyone who cannot answer its riddle. Horus decides to seek assistance from the god of wisdom, and on the way, he cannot stop arguing with Hathor about her choices. Tired of being taken for granted, Hathor decides to chat with Beck instead and is shocked to hear about Horus' promise. It shouldn't be possible to bring Zaya back, but Hathor remains silent for the time being. The trio arrives at Thotha's temple, which is full of copies of the god because he only trusts himself. Thoth refuses to accompany them and instructs them to bring the riddle to him instead, which would result in one of them being killed. Beck alters his mind by playing on his ego and telling the Sphinx that Thoth was afraid of getting the answer wrong. The four of them begin their journey towards the pyramid, and Hathor seizes the opportunity to chastise Horus for promising Beck things he cannot deliver. Horus, on the other hand, does not feel bad because this lie is for the greater good. Horus decides to wait until nightfall to pass undetected once they reach the pyramid grounds. While Thoth reminds Horus that Hathor became Set's lover in order for Set to spare his life, Zaya uses her sand magic to show Beck an image of Zaya waiting to be judged. Because Hathor used to guide souls as well, she has the ability to communicate with the dead, and she allows Beck to send Zaya a message about his fight to bring her back, which Anubis cuts short. The party arrives at the pyramid in the evening to find it in constant motion. Beck picks a random door and jumps inside, where he parkours his way across a moving bridge to reach the wheel that brings everything to a halt. The entire group can now enter and approach the Sphinx together, but Thoth gets the riddle wrong and the Sphinx attacks them. Beck and Hathor take a step back, and Horus holds back the Sphinx while Thoth continues to offer possible answers until he gets it right. The correct answer destroys the Sphinx, and the group is free to approach the center of the pyramid, where they must drop the water, but a trap awaits them. Hathor and Horus are imprisoned in a cage, while Set appears out of nowhere and steals Thotha's brain. Beck grabs the flask, intending to carry out the plan, but Set stops him by showing him Zaya's necklace and explaining Horus lied. Beck isn't sure who to believe, but that brief hesitation is enough for Set to steal and destroy the flask. Then Set flees, hoping that the pyramid will collapse and kill them, but Horus manages to open the cage and escape with his friends by using the wheel as protection. Outside the pyramid, Beck calls Horus out on his lies and concludes that gods don't care about their people. Hathor feels they need to compensate Beck for all of the lying and summons Anubis to offer herself in exchange for Anubis granting Beck passage to the underworld. Anubis accepts, and Hathor kisses Horus before she's taken away, leaving her bracelet behind so Beck can protect himself against the demons. Beck enters the underworld safely thanks to the bracelet and begins looking for Zaya at the queue in front of the gate where the rich can pay for the afterlife and the poor are dissolved. Meanwhile, Set is strengthening his beast transformation by incorporating Thoth's brain, Osiris' heart, Horus' eye, and Nephthys' wings into his magic armor. Then he flies to the solar vessel to exact revenge on his father for exiling him to the desert. Ra explains that he is mistaken and that he has never favored anyone. Everything has always been a test. He gave Osiris the crown, and when the time came, he knew he had to give that power away, so he passed his test. Ra gave Set the desert as a test of patience because Ra wants his son to take over the vessel one day. This enrages Set, who doesn't want to be stuck here for eternity fighting a space worm, and he attacks his father. Ra retaliates with his solar beam, which no god should survive. But Set now possesses the power of multiple gods and defeats Ra before releasing Apophis. Beck finds Zaya in the underworld and wants to give her the bracelet so she can pay her fee to the afterlife, but they are interrupted by Apophis' attack, which forces Anubis to close the gates for the time being. Zaya persuades Beck to give Horus another chance, and Beck returns to Egypt with the bracelet, reuniting with Horus. A carriage sent by Nephthys transports the duo back to the city, where Set appears with Ra's spear and commands Apophis to attack the Nile, the source of all life. Horus and Beck kidnap Urshu in order to force the architect to bring them inside the obelisk. Horus and Urshu take the elevator and end up fighting while Horus climbs. Their struggle knocks over a torch, and the elevator catches fire. So Beck ties his rope to the wall and jumps off before the elevator is consumed by fire, falling down. And taking Urshu with it, Horus discovers Set at the top of the obelisk and begins a new battle. Set believes he has won, but Horus is just bait for Beck's surprise attack. Set attacks Beck, who removes the eye from the helmet before Set pushes him away. Beck throws the eye at Horus, but the god does the right thing and saves Beck instead of the eye. Horus apologizes to Beck for everything before resuming his beast form, because good deeds, not greed, determine your worth. Horus returns to fighting Set inside the obelisk after leaving Beck safely on the ground, and by hitting the walls, he manages to cause the building to collapse and hit Set as well. Horus kills Set with Ra's spear once it hits the ground. Horus then flies to the solar vessel and returns Ra's spear, which instantly heals him with power. Ra wastes no time in fighting Apophis and sending it back the way it came, allowing Anubis to reopen the gates. Horus returns to Egypt and receives his other eye from a child who picked it up off the ground. Then Horus checks on Beck, only to discover that Set's push had injured him, and the boy dies in front of him. Horus, overcome with grief, transports Beck's body to his temple so that he can be near Zaya. At that moment, Ra shows up and revives the young couple as a thank you to Horus for helping him. Egypt is back to life a few days later. All of the people have been set free, and Thoth has officially crowned Horus king. The first thing he does is change the rules of the afterlife. Good deeds, not riches, determine whether you live or die. Beck is appointed king's chief advisor, and he returns Horus' bracelet so that he can go to the underworld and rescue Hathor.